Choobie.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to No
No
Filters, No
filters, no
Fears
fears
podcast.
podcast.
Doo-doo-doo, doo-doo. So, today we have what kind of, we should change it to unicorns. Anyway, an elephant.
Level, was it 2.5 that we decided to change it or
We
to
decided to change it just before the episode because we'll be talking about stuff later. So, 2.5.
2.5? Okay, it's okay. And remember, everything comes from a place of opinions, but mainly of love and how we feel and what we think about certain situations. So it's not a direct attack or personal attack to no one we know in particular. We respect everybody,
These are
but we
just
still have opinions.
conversations that Chibi and I have that we're including you guys. You guys are joining us for our conversations.
Yeah, we're just going live on it. So, as you guys see the episode, we're in season 5. I mean, yeah, season 5. We made it. Thank you. Yay, yay, yay on that. Episode 50. Wait, this is episode 50. So here we are. We're in episode 50.
Holy crap.
I
I
know,
feel
50
like,
more.
and if people are wondering why Phoenix Rising, it's because, the whole story of the Phoenix Rising is that the Phoenix burns to ashes and a new one is reborn from the ashes. We necessarily haven't like fallen apart to ashes or anything like
No.
that. But I feel, and I think, Chubi, you can agree that every season, every new season that we come back with something new. We've regenerated in some way. We've grown as individuals. We're very different people than when we started season 1, episode 1.
Oh, for sure. Our knowledge has expanded also on different topics that we had no knowledge about, like no information, nothing. So yeah, I totally agree on that. I like that though. I like that we could actually admit that we're learning as we go, and from each other too. As you already know, me and Vanessa are similar, but we're so different in so many aspects. But that's also a good thing because hence conversations
For
arise.
real, if we have agreed on everything, this will be really lame and really bland.
I know, but I am glad that we actually have, I just wanted us to explain who we are, and that's it. So I mean, I don't know. You want to go first to all of our new followers that we have, to the new people that are watching us, to who doesn't know what No Filters, No Fears is about.
No, you go first because I talk a lot. I
No,
always talk.
it's funny because I'm the person that when I have something to say, I talk and then I shut up. But if I have nothing, I mean, I don't know.
I'm the person that talks for everything. And so as part of my growth and my phoenix, I I'm going to let you go first because I know that I can overtalk.
Well, whoever to all the new followers, hello, my name is Choobie. Non-binary, I go by they them. So hi, whoever's out there, non-binary babies. If you didn't see our last episode, we started this what, a year already. So I don't know what else are we saying to this introduction. Never
What
thought
is
about it.
no
It feels
filters,
weird.
no fears to you? How have you grown? What is your phoenix? What have you risen from? Something that you've grown from.
What no filters, no fears to me means just being who you are with your opinions, but being respectful to everybody else's opinions. Like it means to be free, and talk about everything that people don't want to talk about. Just honest, real conversations. Like honest conversations. I know people are like, "Oh my God, we talk about everything." No, people don't talk about everything. They're afraid of those controversial topics. They're they're afraid to talk about the elephant in the room. And it's like, why? So this is what No Filters, No Fears to me. It's like a safe space to talk about anything and everything with no judgment.
Yeah. I also feel like it's a space to talk about different things you wouldn't
Yes,
normally hear about,
yes,
because a lot of us tend to have the same conversations over and over again, or just regurgitate what we heard that day on the
exactly,
news or that one video on Instagram, but we don't go beyond it, right?
exactly.
So it's investigating, becoming investigators. I feel like this has made me an investigator of the world around me. And I love that about our podcast, that it's not just for the sake of content, but for the sake of our own humanity and knowledge, that we've become investigators. And I invite all of you to become investigators of your world, become detectives, learn more about everything, even things that you feel have nothing to do with you, right? Oh, but I don't have ALS. Oh, but I am not queer. Oh, but I'm not this. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't know about it, because someone in your life is. And even if someone in your life isn't, you want to know what that is. So you're not talking out of your ass looking like a fool. Like, you understand those around you.
Right, exactly. Get to know different topics. Like there, like the tech episode. Me and Vanessa don't know crap about it, but we wanted to learn. We wanted to educate ourselves in how technology actually works around the world, and to the point of like connectivity. You know how we are connected in a way because of it, and the actual physical technology. How you know what is it called, the GPS and all that crap, and the
Yeah,
Bluetooth, and the lagging and the connection and the
the lagging.
the lagging especially. So yeah, it's just an open safe space. Like granted, again, we're not therapists, we're not doctors, we're not tech people, we're none of the above, but two artists,
We're
two
people.
humans. That's it.
This
Just
is very
learning
real,
together,
living a very real human experience and sharing about it.
learning together, rising together. Just
I mean, for my bit of like rising from the ashes, I feel like it's forced me. I feel like I can genuinely and authentically talk about certain growths and like advice, because even though it's opinion based, there's always some form of like advice or
yeah.
invitation or change in our conversations, right? From each one of us. I feel like I can't do that authentically unless I do the work myself. And so things that I was already starting to work on at like the babiest of paces,
Yeah.
it kind of pushed me to be like, don't, no seas tan pendeja, don't be such a wuss, like go for it, so that I could talk from a place of knowing and of actual like truth, right? Not, I'm telling you do this, but I'm doing the complete opposite. Do what I say, not what I do. That's
Right.
caca.
Hashtag.
Hashtag that's caca. I if I'm talking about it, I'm usually throwing myself under the bus as someone who needs to face it, or say I faced this and I've seen the other side and it's so much better than living in this space. So, and that's when it comes to like our mental health and our um physical situational um topics. But when we're talking about things like world issues, right? And issues that require advocation, and is that a word? Or advocating or activism, that's very different, because it's also shown us how passionate we truly are about certain topics.
That's the thing that I come to realize, but I knew that obviously being an activist and an advocate for things was not a phase. I knew that it was going to stick around for this long because there's a lot of injustices in this world. And it's funny in retrospect, now that you mention it, if not me, who, then who? But we talked about earlier that is true. You're right. In that aspect, yes, then if not me, then who?
Oh, that's gonna be the first quote.
Because damn, that conversation was so, in retrospect, again, guys, sorry, we had a conversation, and then but now that
We're
I'm,
gonna get into it. Trust. It was a pre-conversation to something that we want to discuss live, but we wanted to do the whole Phoenix Rising bit
and you
to
guys
you.
just saw it right now, I went into a holy shit, something clicked from that conversation.
Light
But in
bulb.
but in retro, if not me, then who? And I realized that was it was gonna stick. There's so much shit happening right now, that to the unfortunate that we can't touch upon every single topic every single time at all. Like, it's not like we're doing it live every minute that happened. Hey guys, we just came up with this, just happened, and we're just doing it. It
We
can't.
would be live half of the day because of all the random things that pop up to us that we like message each other about.
And other
Con-
things we and other things we've seen and other things we've noticed, and crap, so much to talk about. But this is what No Filters, No Fears is about.
Yeah.
Obviously we can't talk about it today, but maybe we could talk about it in our next episode or down the line, but we gotta bring it up regardless.
And we do have a C zone, baby. We are bringing that fuego season 5.
Definitely.
The next topic already, we'll be releasing that calendar on Monday of what that episode is going to be about. So already, like, we're starting with a pretty big, intense conversation that we feel is very necessary. But if you have ideas, things that you want to hear us talk about, or that maybe you feel should some attention should be brought to it, please in the comments. Where the comments are, write in them. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about this, or should we get into our previous conversation? Because we kept trying to hold ourselves back from getting too far into the conversation so that we wouldn't forget what we said.
Today is, as you all know, it is Memorial Day. So me and Vanessa, I brought it up to her, the conversation, to talk about it because we are obviously not in the opposite spectrum per se, but we're like what in the, I don't know how to say it,
I mean, there's a lot of things
middle-ish.
that we feel similarly of, but okay, let's say where it started. I made a post today um about Memorial Day, and it was like, let's not take the memory out of Memorial Day and remember those who fought, kind of deal. And I take Veterans Day and Memorial Day very much to heart. Um so I my personal addition to that post was like, a lot of things can be said, because we know a lot of things can be said with all the crap that's happening in the world within our government, and I will leave it at that. um a lot of things can be said, but not today, not to me anyway. And for anyone who's lost someone in a war, or anyone who has somebody that they wonder and they worry about and they fear for, who's in the service, that they're not alone. um I personally have lost a lot of people. I have family members that are Marines and in the army. I have a lot of friends that are in the army. So it hit particular for me. And that's when Choobie asked if it was something that we could bring up, because there's two sides of this feeling and this sentiment. Um, and then from there you can take it as to where, like, the problem lies for you, because you don't have the problems with the veterans.
No, see, I'm not for. I mean, I don't have a problem with the veterans. Like that is correct. I do not have problem with the actual people who have served. That was their choice, unless they were drafted. Obviously, a different story. But I do have a problem with the war itself. And again, like I told you, it makes no sense. That's the first thing I told Vanessa.
Just gonna start all over again, like we haven't had it. So, like, I agree. I'm not. It's not like I'm sitting here like, yeah, go to war. The reality of it, though, unfortunately, is that there are people who don't wish us well, right? And
Right.
and and it's two-sided. We also have our things that we're trying to prove, right? But the fact is, when it comes to defending the country, what they're doing is, if somebody's breaking into your house, you're not going to stand there and let them break into your house. In that respect, and the thing is, it's not, unless it's a draft, and that is a whole other animal. It is a choice, and someone's got to do it, and a lot of people aren't willing to do it. So to those people who, um for what they believe, uh sign up to a service, be it Navy, Marines, Army, Air Force, whatever the case may be, um they've chosen to take on that position because it's something that they truly believe in, and fight for it. Now, there's 1,000 reasons and 1,000 things within that can be really crappy. And there's also 1,000 things that are really amazing, you know? Um, because sometimes we're not just fighting to defend our nation, we're fighting to make sure that other nations, that there can be some sort of uh, peace so that it doesn't come to our backyard. Because, like we discussed in other episodes, it's only a matter of time before it reaches us. Do I wish
And
that there was a way of handling it differently? Absolutely.
And yeah, and what I said to that was, what's the reason? What's the point of all these wars? And like we stated, it starts because it's man-made. All it goes down to is the way the man thinks. Yeah, honestly, at first it was the oil, and then some other crap down the line that it just now they're just like killing people. Obviously, everything has changed over the years, but like I told you before, and like you've mentioned too, is is trauma that goes all away. Is generational trauma that is a real thing that we have to deal with, and the government, it is not dealing with it in a proper way. But I still don't think that that they should sacrifice other people's lives for their own selfish whatever reason is going on out there. But then that's when the whole thing clicked in my head of, if not me, then who? But I
Because the thing
get
is,
it.
the reason that I had brought up that it's not of a now, and yes, it's man made in the sense that there had to be that first guy at some point that was like, I want this. And the only way that I feel that I can get this is to fuck somebody up, right?
Right.
Is to fight. Now, the fact is, wars have existed amongst people forever. Forever. Go back all the ways back, all the ways back. And you're defending territories, you're defending villages, you're defending families, right? There's wars among family. And you don't have to go too far to look for wars. Okay. Every movement that we see going on, right, is a war. Okay. The government makes money from the funds they are given to them. Whatever the reason for the war can be, whatever.
No, obviously, just feel like you were just saying that you could go to any village and do whatever you want, but what's the point in that? Why can't you just coexist together? And like I said, I know it sounds like a
Right. And what
dream
it is the ideal. It would be so lovely. But
to
the fact
respect
is
people.
that are we willing to let our guard down and find out if somebody's willing to meet us there in that altruistic state
No,
and
obviously
potentially
not.
lose whatever freedom, limited freedom as it may be? Are we willing to lose all of that just because, oh, but war is so ugly? It is ugly. I am not taking away from that. War is shit. Women, children dying for senseless crap is shit. But what is the alternative? What is the alternative? Because utopia would be lovely, but it's not the reality of the world we live in.
No, obviously, but also this is already in our have been taught to us that we can coexist with other people because they're the enemy. They're always going to be an enemy out there. Obviously, we have to think that way because that's what the only thing we know. And obviously, I'm sitting here and I'm seeing the people that are sacrificing their lives, but at the end of the day, like I've heard people say they went there and it was a waste of their lives to go there because there was nothing improving anything of the country or of anything in a higher value to say we did something great. And on the other hand, yes, the wars haven't reached our backyards, like you said. Correct. I see that. But at the end of the day, we've sacrificed millions of people's lives, and at the end of the day, we're still have no freedom, and then everybody is comparing it to what?
But wait. So this was where we kind of left off on our conversation
Oh
of
yeah.
no freedom. And I said, what would it take for it to feel like freedom to you? Because the reality of it is that yes, we have certain limits to now we're seeing people wanting to put a foot down censorship wise and a bunch of other things, government wanting to dictate what a woman does with her damn uterus, that kind of shit. But
Right.
would we be even able to talk about this? Could it even be a conversation, like a community conversation, a conversation of the people in another country?
Possibly
No.
not. No, yeah, you're
right?
correct.
The
And
thought
that,
of having more children, more than one child would mean penalty of death in some
yeah.
countries. In
Mm-hmm.
Korea, you want to leave, you might get killed for trying to leave your country.
I understand that, but my point is that when people are like, we're free, and they're comparing it to other countries, but you have to look at your own backyard as to what freedom is to you, because at the end of the day you're still limited, and we're still being censored, we're still being killed, and there's a lot of things we still can't do.
Okay, so what is it? So is it that we're not free, or is it that there is too much restriction? Because my question is, what would freedom look like to you within our own backyard? What would freedom look like to you in order for the term "we are free" to ring true to you?
Well, first of all, we have to go thousands of years back, because the only reason why we have to go through all this trouble of having to have a job, having to have this, having to do this, is because it's still man-made at the end of the day. All these things that this particular thing we're going, it's man-made. Everything's man-made. Like right now, the money thing is man-made. We don't need any of that because of the way that man thinks. And I mean man as in the general humankind population, not like
So,
man
so
as in,
you would have us go back to time of
I
barter
have,
and trade, of of you know I see it. I understand what you're saying, and I would love the simplicity of so many things from the past. But the reality is that to backpedal on so many things would also be a disservice to us, because now we are used to so much, right? And if we're talking about technological advances, if we're talking about medicinal advancements, we can't necessarily go back on those because we'll have people dying left and right.
yeah, but that's not what I mean, though. I'm not necessarily saying let's backpedal to, you know, whatever time before that. I'm just saying living a simplistic life in a sense of where, like, I'm not saying communist country. I'm not saying none of that. I'm saying like where everybody's equal, and they could choose whatever they want, just like us. The human body can choose what they want. We could do what our bodies. That's what I'm saying. Listen, I know I sound like a fucking hippie and like, oh my
No,
God,
I'm laughing at Peter. He called you an anime villain.
wants to erase the current structure of humankind and retract everything back to
I don't think
prehistoric
that's what
time.
I don't think that's what they're saying either. But I
No.
think I understand what you're saying, to kind of bare bones certain parts of society. And
Mhm.
I get you, and I get that desire. I've 1,005 times, I think I've even said it to you directly. I'm like, I just want to buy a huge plot of land and start like my own town, and like, and
Which you
that's it.
can,
You totally can. I'm like, I would totally be down with that.
but
Um,
there's gonna be thousands of problems with that. Somebody's gonna tell you you can't do that, or you have this
or
and you need that.
somebody's gonna want to be. There's always going to want to be a chief, right? Somebody's. Oh, I was watching Grey's Anatomy the other day, and they do this project called the Gunther Project, where they have the team, when they're not working well together, take care of a really dire case, and then one person will emerge as the leader, right? But in the interim, 4 or 5 people are trying to be the leader. One takes over for a little bit, then the next one, then the next one. The idea that this country was built on, that I think was forgotten even by our current governments, is by the people. Right?
Exactly. This is not by the
That's the big
people.
one. That's the big one. By the people. And but also the people, we are to blame for that having gone asunder, because we stopped educating ourselves as to
Exactly.
what it meant to be the people, and what our voice meant, and how it contributed to the nation, right? We made it okay to say, make all these decisions for us, right? There was a time in this country where there were marches, where there were protests, where there were things, but we've no longer educated ourselves to the point where that happens. And there are plenty of activists and advocates out there that still do it. But by comparison
Yeah.
to what it was, when we would see these changes, these drastic changes in laws and government, not so much anymore. So can we put sole blame on government entities? No, because if we
No.
didn't like it, it is in the books of law that we can do something about it.
People have become so complacent, like you said, like we said earlier,
That's the
complacent. And with the whole bubble thing, it's nothing's bothering me. I'm living my little perfectly normal life. Okay, no problem. I believe in that, But like going back to this, it's such a conundrum. Like back to the statement of like I believe if how do I put it? I'm a big, huge person of like start living in your own bubble. But I don't have a problem with that if the world wasn't in such a shit state. But if we were able to everybody live in their own bubble and not bother, your neighbor and not, kill whoever for no reason, then maybe the bubble will be perfectly fine. And that's where I am. Like, yes, we need what's happening, the structure of where of how everything is being to be done, because then everything
I
has
mean,
a rule and an order. But to the extent of what? The sacrifices of people?
unfortunately, and I don't want to sound like a dick because
No,
it's
no,
not my
no.
goal, but it's an observation. It's what I have seen. Unfortunately, there's always going to be a sacrifice somewhere.
Yeah.
It takes, I'll say the same saying of like, it takes money to make money. Like you have to put something forth in order to get something. For lack of a better example, our forefathers knew that it took a lot of them dying and a lot of men in at war dying in order to get what, and we're not going to get into what lands they were taking because we know how I feel about that. But it took, they knew that there had to be some sort of, they had to lay something on the line in order for the grander vision. So there's always going to be something to sacrifice. Sometimes with it, you don't go too far within a family nucleus. You're in a partnership, somebody's got to sacrifice a little bit of their time, of what they wanted for a moment, right? So that everything is stable and then maybe they can go and do their thing. There's always going to be some sort of sacrifice at one point. Individually, we make sacrifices. I know that if I want to go on a trip, I've got to save money. So that means I've got to sacrifice the dinners that I like going to, right? So everything takes some level of sacrifice.
It will be perfectly fine if the sacrifices were not in vain because we're repeating history over and over again.
We are, but at the same
We're
time,
not learning.
not all of it is in vain because so many of the things that we have seen, there has been growth. To deny any growth is to not leave room for more growth to happen,
No,
right?
obviously, feel like what has been done. For example, the women's voting, perfect. That has changed, and now women are able to vote. Great. Some people do not exercise that right because they don't feel like it's valuable. I get that, but it's like a lesson learned was there, and now we don't have to keep fighting for that. Now we have to keep fighting for other things. So I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna sacrifice these thousands of people's lives, don't make it in vain. Like, let's try to be better for the next
Right.
generation, for the next thing coming up.
So that would mean not erasing it from history books, actually educating,
No,
putting the
yeah,
information out there because what has happened, I feel that so much of this gets forgotten and so much of the trauma doesn't get dealt with and so much of the ideals that the country hasn't evolved or grown or progressed is because we don't know. In our history books, we have limited knowledge of certain wars and who the heroes were.
whitewashed.
I want to know who the fuck the hero was. I want to know what happened. Because the fact is, anybody who showed up that day when the bang bang was happening was a damn hero,
Right.
right? Because I sure wasn't going to do it. I will say it up front. Like I'm proud of those individuals who have the cojones to do it. I
Right.
am that person. I am not that person. Um, I fight in a different way, in the way that I can, in the way that I know, right? But I do know that there is a severe lack of information, right? Our media does not help us.
No.
Everything is either all the way left or all the way right. And it is BS. Anybody who thinks that they're watching their all the way left or right news and that they're the ones telling you the real side of the story. And there is no middle. Everybody has their agenda. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
everybody has their agenda. And I want to be as idealistic as the next person. I think we're on the same page about that. You know, we want it to be better. I think I tend to throw more for equity versus equality just because equality does not always look the same for every group
Exactly.
and it
Exactly.
doesn't give people what they need, right?
Mm.
Versus equity that it might. And the reality of the matter is I don't have a problem if somebody worked damn hard to get what they have, right? And put their best foot forward, right? And has contributed back to their society in a
Mm-hmm.
positive way. I don't have an issue with that. I really don't. But to say that they have to be knocked down from what they've worked hard for because somebody else didn't make it there, that's some nonsense. That's some nonsense. Now, if this person had opportunity, right, and they did not take advantage of that, that's on them now, isn't it? But
Right.
the problem is the opportunity has not been there.
Mm-hmm.
The opportunity has been denied or intentionally not created. We know that there are communities that have been kept in the squalor that they are on purpose so that others could thrive.
Right.
So that's why I tend to lean more on equity because if you really worked hard and if you really took advantage of the opportunities presented and you made it, keep your damn money, keep your damn thing and keep helping people
I agree.
and but help people. Don't be like, I got my money now. I'm just gonna like
And
screw
that's the
everything else.
problem, and that's the main problem we're having lately. Like not lately, for a while now. Everybody to each their own. Ya se acabó la cosa. Let's go. Like screw the little people, screw whoever else, and then that's it. There's none of my business. And I'm like, but what about helping thy neighbor? Like helping those that need help if you can. And that's where my
Absolutely.
problem sometimes lies in, is because granted, personally, I'm not a people person and like let me go and be friends with the world, but I don't want to see it destroyed either. I don't want the people, the humankind, to be destroyed because of some asshole who decided that it's okay to go bomb some other country just because God knows what the reason at the time was.
Yeah.
That personally do not sit well with me. That's
I
it.
understand. And in the same way that we're talking about equity, that is why when soldiers who have signed up to serve are taken to countries that aren't necessarily for American, but to, okay, these people need our help, and they go out there, breaks my heart, absolutely. But at the same time, it's like these countries may not have otherwise survived. We don't hear, and this is the media's damn fault. Okay. And not even social media could help at this point, right? Because we don't hear, except for little baby crawls on the bottom of the news, maybe, about the small cities and small towns that get wiped out entirely. Wiped out entirely. Entire cultures get wiped out on the daily. Genocide is not something that has disappeared.
Oh no, well, oof.
There are holocausts of all different sizes and shapes and kinds happening every day in the world. And I'm not saying that it's just our soldiers. It's people who are willing to put themselves in situations, extraordinary situations that others wouldn't. Take them outside of their own home boundaries.
Right.
It sucks. But they're not going to face things that they created. They're going to defend against unfair treatments. There's these horrible ongoing wars and bombs and shit in Kazakhstan that we don't always hear about. There's this and she's an influencer. She's all over Instagram and she's got, the lips and the lashes and the nails and a salon, but she is a huge freaking activist. Her name is Helly Love, and she's a rapper. And all of her music
I love her. Yes, I know who
is
you're talking
about
about.
giving a giant middle finger to the government in her country.
I
And
love.
she's
Oh my
almost
god,
been killed and arrested 1,005 times.
love,
And,
love. Yeah.
and yeah, and she does not look like the person that you would imagine to be doing these things, right? But what does she do? She uses her music shit and she uses her money to give to the military that is defending her people because, you know, it is the circumstance. I am with you 1,000% being angry at the circumstance. The response to it unfortunately has had to be sometimes the fight. And I wish that wasn't the case either.
And that's where I have a conflict with. Like, yes, I understand that if I put myself, I'm putting myself in their shoes. I'm an activist, let's say, which I am. But let's say that my activism is what we're doing the work because other people don't want to do it. I get that. I understand that aspect. I understand that we have to do it because we need to better the future for whoever is coming next or next generation. I completely understand that. But at the same time, so many people,
Right. But
I don't
so
know,
many
they just,
people wouldn't have to be put at risk if, like you said, we weren't so afraid, right?
yeah,
We've cultivated the same way that we talk about hashtag collective consciousness. We have created a culture of fear. And the culture of fear is not American, it's not European, it is universal.
right,
The culture of fear of the unknown, right? So now we have all of these names for it, which we know, we'll get into it in another episode about identifiers. But now we have all these flipping words for shit, right?
right,
So we have all these words to understand xenophobia, racism, prejudice, judgment. Um, so all of these words to explain these fears, but all it is, it's a culture of fear, of the unknown, of having less, of having to prove to be more, or be strong, or be superior in some way to someone else,
right.
right? So it's no wonder that what comes in the crossfires are the lives of people. At the same time, we create it amongst ourselves because the more we want to prove that we know more, then we start a whole new battle. Every time we want to prove that we know more or we know different, we start a whole new battle.
For honestly, for no reason. Like, why do you? What I mean, I don't know. This is the conflict that I'm having because, again, intellectually, I understand, but as a empath, as a person that feels, as a person that just sees destructions and humanity just being destroyed because of other people and their selfishness, that's what gets to me sometimes. Like, if the
Absolutely.
if the purpose, what, okay, again, back to the question I asked you earlier, you're going to this country for war to what? If it's to defend our country because they're gonna bomb us first and you're trying to stop the missile or trying to stop them, great. But if you're gonna go over there to kill villages because of
Yeah,
what?
no,
What is
yeah,
the
that I
reason?
agree is BS. That I agree is BS.
That's pissing me off is an understatement. That is
Because
heartbreaking.
that is just a pissing contest. It's a pissing contest. And it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate. I agree with you. I agree with you that it is one of those things that is so incredibly conflicting. That dichotomy of like understanding the need for certain things, but emotionally it's still not feeling right and seeing the devastation because of it. I agree. But again, then it leaves you in this shitty space of the alternative is not knowing what can happen and potentially being exposed and what? You know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
a really shitty place to be. And because there is no answer to that, there
yeah,
continues to be all these things. It's really funny because I really feel that there's a certain push, el ambiente, in the environment, right? And I'm not going to be specific whether it's government or generational or anything like that. It's just in the environment. There's like this strong desire, right, for this difference and this change and this, why don't we all just get along, which we all want, right? But to want to one day to the next it is asking for trouble, because we've seen what the cycle of change needs to look like, right? For in order to maintain, it takes time and it takes steps and it takes more than the higher ups wanting to do it. Because even though the people aren't standing up right now, the people are the ones standing in our own way.
Like I told you earlier, in order for there to be actual change, is we need to change people's minds and their thoughts and how they perceive things, and then for there to be, change, for them to act upon that
Right.
positive change or the.
But then in doing that, we have to understand that opinion and free will still exists.
I mean, again, I
Because if what we're trying to do it is change people's minds, that's
the
taking away that
positive.
freedom.
I'm talking. Well, no, because we're educating them on why this particular. I'm not trying to say brainwash the whole goddamn country, but I'm talking about like
Right.
educating the masses on why being peaceful or X, Y, and Z or something that's better could potentially help the humanity. I'm not saying that we.
Absolutely. I don't disagree. But the same way that I could say a million things about something that you feel very strongly about and it won't change your mind, it
Yeah.
won't
No.
change a lot of people's minds. They may have a different perspective of it. They may be able to be
Yeah.
more tolerant and understand certain changes or be like, or meet halfway. Like I can meet you where
Yeah.
I agree with you, but beyond that, I still feel that this is wrong,
And it's
right?
perfectly fine.
And religion like feeds into that, and culture feeds into that. It's a shit show because there's only so far that certain things can truly change. And I mean that more in the sense of political atmosphere than where we need to change in reference to how we treat each other. Like when I'm
Right.
talking about
Right.
race and things like that. That that's
Yeah.
just a this. Get it the fuck together. Like,
Exactly. So we're essentially on the same page. That's
yeah,
that's that's the bottom to what we're trying to say. It's just that respect thy neighbor one in that aspect, in the simplest form. If they're not bothering you, don't bother them.
both the children of immigrants. I as many flaws as this nation has, and boy does it have flaws. I I am proud of living in this country and having the freedoms that I do because I know what my family went through in order to be in this country and the opportunities that it awarded them that they wouldn't otherwise have in their country, that that country still doesn't have. That people are dying every day of starvation trying to have their voice heard, that only until recently people aren't listening to what's been going on in Cuba because now they have social media. But so much of what happened on that island was a fucking mystery to people unless it came from the mouth of the people who got here. And you would hear
Yeah.
conflicting stories and different experiences. But the fact is, that now we hear what happens in Venezuela. We hear what happens in Colombia. We hear what happens in all of these countries with these governments that want to overhaul everything.
When Venezuela decided to take back and be like, we are the fucking people, and then what happened with other riots, and then having to go to Colombia to get food, and the border was open for split just for them to. I'm sorry, but I'm down for that,
Yeah, but
because
they're
there has
still
to be.
dying. There's
Oh, of course
still
they're
red
still
districts
dying.
where everything is off and people are starving. And, ahora hay hoteles de que abierto and people are moving back to their country and not having such a bad time. Por aquí, por allá. Again, the same mixed stories that you may hear from Cuba. But the fact is that it is not a free place. The fact is that the government is still shit.
Right.
And
No, and
communism only looks good on paper. But communism in real life is a fucking disaster.
I agree with you on your statement when I'm very grateful for the whatever opportunities that may have come to me, but at the same time, this country could do obviously a whole lot more better than that. And I am not diminishing what it has done and what it will possibly do, but right now, I still do not like this country. Right, and I'm talking about the United States, whoever is out there listening to this. Just to make
I
clarify,
yeah,
I mean, we
I
all feel
see.
different about it.
This is where we agree to disagree. Like and here's the thing. If nothing else, like I'm glad that we can have these conversations, and I know how Chibi feels. This isn't news to me,
Yeah,
but it just goes to show that if you listen long enough to somebody that you know you don't agree with on a particular thing, you still find common ground. We feel very similarly about how unfortunate it is that wars have to, like
yeah,
that constant struggle of like, sí, pero no, pero sí, pero no. It's there. I feel differently about the country as a whole, you know.
yeah,
Um, eh, Proudly Americana, but proudly, I say, like, a lot of people ask me, where you from? I'm obviously American. Like, I was born here. But, like, I always say, Cuban Dominican. That's because those are the parts that make me up. But I am American, and I'm very proud of that. And for those that the reason that they don't feel proud of the country is because of the things that is happening, I hope that one day it lives up to the expectations and the hopes that you have for it. You know,
are you
I
talking
think
that was that directed to me or directed to
but you're
whoever?
not the only one that feels that way.
Okay, because I'm over here like I am not expecting anything
I
from this.
mean, you may not have the expectations, but I hope that it changes eventually to the point where you're like, okay, bravo. I mean, for me, the reason I have the pride is because I I choose to have the hope, and I've seen the developments, and I feel people are at least becoming more invested in learning, and I feel that's where
Yeah,
we've lacked before, right? When the people become more invested in learning their history, their real history, not the constructed history that we get in school. Uh, when people learn the real history and people learn how our government really works or should work, and become involved in that process versus I'll just show up to vote. Um, that's where
exactly.
the differences happen. Because a lot of people are just like, let me do my homework like a week before elections, and then I'll just vote for the guy. You know?
And this is why this is what No Filters No Fears is about. Education. Like there are certain things again, like we stated, we don't know anything at all. We're learning everything that we say to you guys, but reading is essential. And again, like Vanessa said, all of our books in high school were whitewashed, simple as put. None of that has an official like, and especially we're only talking about United States. Well, you and I went to the islands for our
Yeah.
education,
I mean, and
so
even then, there's so much history that isn't told. In DR, there's so much history that isn't told about, about Haiti, about the Spanish that came to the island, like so much history that is
that
eliminated. Colonization is a very constructed and filtered story.
that is interesting because in Puerto Rico, that's the first thing I learned. I didn't learn about American whatever. I learned about Los Taínos in Puerto Rico, what Puerto Rico was, how we came to be,
Oh
and
yeah,
how we
you
got
we
to.
learn that stuff, but you don't learn about the conflicts. You don't learn about the things that they don't want you to learn about because it doesn't make you look very, it doesn't make the island look good.
But granted, with all this being said, I with Vanessa and I like both being in two totally not totally opposite side of the whatever, but we could still have conversations and still talk about it and still respect each other's opinion whether I agree with her or not. That's at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I'm not gonna try to change her mind or vice versa. We're just here opening a safe space for the both of us to talk about the way we obviously feel or see things in the larger picture. So here
Mm.
we are. We had a conversation. We didn't kill each other. Most people can't do that though.
No, and it turns into a screaming match, and I have to assert my point of view over yours.
I
Um,
mean, I mean, obviously, my I have reasons as to why, and it goes deeper than just because I said so, But
Right. Like, of course, like if I outwardly hear you say something incorrect, historically incorrect, or just incorrect, period, I'll be like, Choobie, hold up.
right,
But
right,
if we're
right.
just talking opinion on that alone, but granted, even a lot of our opinions have been based on historical, like what we've seen, what we've observed through history, our
What we
knowledge
read, yeah,
of it, but also our own experience. And I think that's something that we forget when we go into conversations like this. And we, I mean, the collective we,
yeah,
because officer of the collective conscious, um, the collective we forget that experience feeds so much of what our opinion is and of what we know and of how we approach. We can't just go into wanting to educate ourselves with a direct thing of, is this racist? Is this? No, what is the history of this? And then you can opine if that goes against your belief or your understanding of what um xenophobia, racism, injustice is, right? But you can't just go looking for a specific thought based on what already is your opinion, because then you're not looking for anything new. You're just
exactly.
looking to keep yourself right.
There's no growth
And
in
you're
there.
adding to the problem. The
Yeah.
problems of the world are a bunch of people wanting to prove themselves right.
When you do your reading, when you try to educate yourself in a certain topic, you may actually come with a different opinion afterwards. You're like, oh crap, maybe, okay, maybe I should change my mind. Maybe this is the way to go. But most people don't want to do that. And mind you, like I told you earlier, my opinion has changed over the years of how I felt about the veterans themselves. Like, well, I didn't tell you to go fight the country or fight the war. That was your choice. That was your opinion. But now I understand that at the end of the day, they're still human. They're still people. And they made their choices. Some, like the draft, like we spoke, didn't. But that was an opinion that has changed over the course of like 10 years, 12 years, but it changed, you know because at the end of the day, yes, they are still people, and we need to still treat them better. But if the veteran themselves are assholes and they think we need to kiss their feet, that's a different story. Don't be an asshole just because you did a job just like everybody else is doing a job. Should we kiss their feet? No. If you're an asshole, I mean, about it.
Okay,
If
I was
you're
gonna
an
say, well, I
asshole,
mean, their job is pretty rough. But yeah, if they're
again,
like
but at the end of the day, they did their
throwing
job.
their
Just don't be an asshole about it. Simple
right,
as that. Just don't be a dick. That's it. Don't be a dick, and then you'll get the respect you deserve. Respect is still earned no matter what job or what thing you've been doing, because you still need to respect people.
right, and I just my final thought on the matter, just because, and this goes back to like Veterans Day, Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Um, respect is still an earned thing, but I do hope that we can learn to understand. Like you came to the realization they are people. They did what felt right for them, and they put their best foot forward for what meant something to them. Um, I get very like livid, very passionate about what veterans suffered through, specifically like after Vietnam, because
Yeah.
it wasn't just the government not responding accordingly with proper medical care and therapies for return veterans who needed help because of
Hmm.
it wasn't just that. The bigger problem was society itself.
Oh yeah.
They were over there fighting, and they come home to a bunch of people spitting in their face and treating them like crap. Um, because people just don't understand. People like whatever's and we still act that way so many times. When it's
Yeah.
far from us, we act like it's not of us. And the soldiers had to come back to people with that attitude, and people who fought, for this country, lost limbs, lost lives, came back to be homeless or kicked out by their own families because they were upset that they fought in a war. And during that war, people were drafted. Some of them did not want to be there, and they did it anyway. And they came home to be treated like shit. And, VA hospitals have come a long way. There are a lot of organizations that help support returned soldiers with disabilities. And there's so much more mental help out there for return soldiers. But it's such an interesting situation in the middle of when you feel for the human, right? The humanity of it, but then the political part of it
Yeah.
gives you such a bleh feeling. Yeah.
I just hope that you guys do your own research, read, and obviously respect other people's opinions on how they feel about anything, you know, because at the end of the day, they're living their lives and you're living yours. But everybody's connected, and all of us, it's like a domino effect. It trickles down to everybody, and you just gotta, just, it's tough. Just,
I'm glad we talked about this, and I appreciate you reaching out to me about my post and not being like, "Oh, this is bullshit," like, and saying like, "Hey, can we talk about this?" Because it was obviously something that we were gonna have conversation over, and we clearly did. And I'm
yeah.
glad we talked about it because I do understand your point of view about it better. Um, I learned something new. You know, it it doesn't necessarily change the way I feel either, but like I know you better. I know and you're not the only one who feels that way in the world. I'm not the only one who feels the way that I feel. So that was interesting. And Danny thinks that we're anime villains. Steps closer to self-destruction. I'm not destroying the world, I'm saving it. Reminds me of I have to watch this. What is RE Peter?
Well, guys, I hope you learned something, or I don't know, a light bulb went off like it did on with me. And live is gonna be really interesting because we're gonna find more topics that we're the opposite on, because it's interesting to still learn from each other and still obviously respect each other and keep the friendship. And I'll be like, you know what, Vanessa, I can't. Goodbye.
It's over,
Unless it's something really fucked up and detrimental to
which
the
I doubt
world.
would happen.
Yeah, no. But if it came to that, we'll have to sit down and be like,
Then that
I
would be
don't,
the end of No Filters, No Fears, guys.
basically, because we can be, one, you can be friends with somebody you don't trust. Two, somebody that is fucked up in a way that morally is fucked up, immorally, or what's the other word? Some
Unethical.
unethical. Thank you. That is something very unethical to the point where it's like this does not align well with the both of us. And yeah, well, that will have to be. But other than that, our conversations are more, are here, are well.
Place of curiosity too.
Right, right.
Like today, you didn't disrespect my post at all, but because your point of view was different, the curiosity was, can we talk about this? I think the question was, or is it too controversial? I'm like, well, what is No Filtering, No Fears? I'm not controversial, so we're talking about it.
Yes, and but I'm happy that you were receptive to actually talking about it, because some people would have been like, why though? Like, why do we have to talk about it? I feel the way I feel. I don't think I need to elaborate more on this post. I mean, but that's not who you are. So obviously, hello, here we are.
Here we are. What
That's
the
what
next episode is about accessibility.
And we all need that. In
Oh,
what context, you will find out next Monday. No. But my what I was gonna say is like, please leave a comment about any subject that you think we should talk about. Anything, just write it down if you're watching this. It's Happy Memorial Day, because I hear the fireworks going off.
there's
So
fireworks.
yes, I
I,
know it's
you know
ironic for
what?
the BTS.
I get it. Like for Fourth of July and stuff. I never got for Memorial Day the fireworks and such. I always felt that it should be a more like somber occasion. Personally, everybody, you celebrate however you want, but I always felt like turning it into a drinking fest and like
The people.
sales and like all that. I never understood it because I was like, it was supposed to be a commemorative, decorative situation for lives lost, right? We're
Right.
celebrating them and praising their memory. So maybe fireworks isn't so bad, but like the barbecues and the getting piss-faced drunk and all the shootings that I've heard about, that is unnecessary. These people are dead because of shootings, and you're out there shooting each other like assholes. Get it
Just
together.
like just like when they do for Veterans Day, they have fireworks. I'm like, these people they have PTSD, they're traumatized, and you're gonna put fireworks and make them like, are you? Are you stupid? Like, a lack of a better
I
statement,
know
are
I
you?
don't get that. I personally don't. Personally, I don't. Like for 4th of July, I'm all about the fireworks. I'm all about it, and I love fireworks in general.
I
But
don't.
for certain occasions, it kind of confuses me.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everybody. Stay
Stay
fearless.
fearless.